Record on this. Okay. We're on, James. James?
We on now?
Yes,
We on now?
we're on.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Portsmouth Coffee Talks evening edition. And we're here on our regular Thursday nights. And don't forget to watch us every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. on TBL 1350 and on Facebook Live and later on our YouTube channel. So we're here
James,
tonight.
is it possible to turn your volume up, James? Turn your volume up.
It's all the way up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all the way up.
Okay.
Can you hear me
Thank
better
you.
now?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Portsmouth Coffee Talk wanted to have citizens on to have a discussion about the recent council actions and other issues in the city. We want to make sure, and our shows is always Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice, our community, and our future. So this is an opportunity for us to bring citizens on and let their voices be heard, since the council doesn't want to hear it. But anyway, we just thought this was a great opportunity to bring some of our fine citizens on that keep up with what's going on in the community, and we all have opinions and concerns, and we thought this would be a good opportunity for us to have that conversation and get different viewpoints from different people, citizens in our city or our different communities. And before I get started and introduce who we have, I'll let the Colonel do his little thing there so we can stay in good with Facebook.
Yes, thank you, Slim. This is going to keep us out of Facebook's jail. But the views stated on this program of the guests and the hosts and nobody else. And so this is just us. So let's go ahead and let it rock and roll.
Let it rock and roll. But I want to thank our guests for one thing, for agreeing to come on. And we have Pam Phillips. She is a resident of Portsmouth. She's an engineer. And if you recognize, she ran for city council at one time. We have Mark Geduldig-Yatrofsky. And I've been knowing Mark for almost 200 years and still can't get his name right. But I think everybody knows what I mean. But Mark is here with us, and you recognize him as a frequent speaker at the city council meetings. And he also ran for office at one time. So we have people that have run for office here tonight, along with Barry Randall, who agreed to come on at the last minute. We thank you, Barry, Bishop, Pastor. Have President of Civic League, Brighton Rock Civic League. And I probably can think of about 10 or 12 more titles that you could hold. But anyway, we want to thank you for being here. And our greatest fan or watcher, I don't want to be presumptuous by calling you a fan, but I believe you are a fan because you're on every week watching us and making your comments, and we really appreciate it. And you're also one of our donors, so we appreciate that as well. And the owner of the first coffee cup we gave out to one of our fans, so we appreciate you. And she's Patsy Hines, and she's here with us, and we're going to get started. I don't know, one of the hosts, if one of the other hosts want to start off, and then we'll let the our guests chime in and talk about. I guess, Leah, if you want to start out and talk about. I'm
gonna let the Colonel start today. How about that?
Oh, Colonel? Lord, you want to let me loose?
I'm gonna let you loose, Colonel.
Okay. So I know we're here to talk about the I guess the Portsmouth City Council and all the shenanigans that these the four horsemen has tried to play on the people of the city of Portsmouth. And I see our four guests here, and when I refer to as the four horsemen, or the four people that wanted to, or that fired the sitting city manager. But you know what? I'm going to start off one, and I'm going to go off topic here right quick, is that we've had a lot of shootings recently in the last week. And I watched the Mayor Glover give a couple interviews. And I like Mayor Glover, personally, but I think that he needs help on the PR piece, because he gave an answer of non-answer to on what they're going to do about crime. He stated, and I'll quote one thing if I was sitting in front of him today, stated that yes, he had a meeting with somebody from the state office that was going to help. This was your opportunity to come out and on while you're doing the interview, and to say, what help you going to give me other than a statement? A statement doesn't help nobody. The governor, who I call our Confederate governor that we have, could have sent the attorney general down here. When he was running, he was tough on crime, said he was going to do all this. But what has he done to help us? They have the pocketbook. He could give a grant to, and these kids are getting out of school. What are these young kids are going to do once school lets out? What happens? It's going to be hot. They ain't got nothing to do. Where are all the programs? Mr. Glover, Mr. Mayor, tell us what you're going to do. So I'll start it off with that. And I see Mark there. Well, actually, I see Pam. It's starting to get to you. Pam, why don't you? So, what say you?
I mean, I agree with you. Pre-COVID, because we're still dealing with COVID. There were, I don't know, you could throw a rock and find a summer program for children in Portsmouth to participate in that were low cost. A lot of them did a whole lot of activities, to help keep these children away from the negative influences that are around them.
Excuse me, Pam, is there any way that you all can speak up? I can hardly hear you.
Get a little closer to the mic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so with the reduction in the school or in the summer programs, no, it really disheartens me that we are going to have the potential for even more children to fall into a lifestyle that will chew them up, spit them out, and it's hard to recover from, if they can even survive it.
Mm-hmm. And you're correct when you talk about surviving it, because if we know in society, once you get something on your record, it is with you forever, and you're forever stained, and it stops you from employment, education, and basically life in general stops once you have a record.
Well, I mean, you have to go in and think about, like, if a teenager ends up being prosecuted for a drug trafficking charge, they are not entitled to financial student aid anymore. Like that, those coffers are cut. It's been like that for a very long time, and unfortunately, that's one of those things that probably isn't going to keep a lot of people out of that lifestyle, but there may be some that it might.
Well, it's interesting. Who has the budget? Who's in control of the budget that we hadn't heard nothing from?
That's right. It's like, because they're stalled.
Yeah.
I mean, they're stalled. We don't seem to be able to come up with any solutions because we have a whole lot of gerrymandering, if that's the word.
Mhm.
They're not really putting efforts to make it to a point where they are understanding in unity what needs to be done. I am appalled that we haven't gotten no further than discussions. It has to go further than that with some kind of process, and then put that process in action. But having all this discussion, we know the data, we know who's getting hurt the worst. So what is it other than, to me, a dysfunctional council that's slowing the process down? Everybody seems to want to have their own individual way. And we got to be unified in attacking this violence and attacking all the issues in a way that is going to be beneficial for Portsmouth and not just for some group, but the city as a whole. And if we don't work it out together, I just fear that it's not going to be pretty.
Yes, Barry, you had something to say?
Yes.
Colonel,
Go ahead.
Colonel, and before you go, I should have done this in the beginning, and I'm just going to ask, before you speak, tell what community you live in so we can show the, the demographics that we're dealing with as far as the communities. I think that's important to mention. Okay, go ahead, Pastor.
And please
Yeah.
speak in your mic. I'm getting some notes here saying they can't hear you, so please speak in your mics, okay?
Me too?
No, Pat,
Also?
you were loud and clear.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead, Barry.
Okay, so representing the south side area of Portsmouth, Brighton, Prentice Park area, I just want to add something and to piggyback off Ms. Hines. The problem is, Colonel, to what your point is, first of all, Virginia has 134 localities, counties, cities. So therefore, the Attorney General, the governor, they can't just come into a city and they talk that stuff, but they do not have the right to come into the general localities and do X, Y, Z. That's first and foremost. So we don't want to give out false information to the public. They can't just come into Portsmouth and say, well, this is what we're going to do. And to Ms. Hines' point, they first want to look for unity. If we have a council that's not working with the police department, that's not working with the sheriff department, that's not working with the Commonwealth Attorney's Department, that's not working with the school board, first of all, Portsmouth has a very dysfunctional leadership across the board. We're not working together. All these cliques and whites and blacks and Republicans and Democrats and who like you this month. And I'll use myself, for example, you like me this month, you don't like me next month. If I'm say something you like, I can't be for everybody every which month. The reality is we have to let these children that are watching us as adults know that we cannot handle our problems through violence. And the problem is not the children, it's the adults. We just have the common sense to know that we can't shoot each other. But what we're doing is we're shooting each other on social media or through words and being ugly to each other. And the problem is because their brains aren't fully developed, because we all know that they're not using the certain parts of their brain until they get to 25 years old anyway. So therefore, it's easy for them to pull a gun out and shoot each other. But they watch us. They see Barry Randall. I'll use myself as an example because I don't want to act innocent. They see Barry Randall attacking James Slim Overton and being ugly to him and being violent towards him on social media and being ugly to him and what have you, or vice versa. So therefore, they're handling these things like that, or we're in public and we're not operating in certain decorum and what have you, or the vice mayor of the city being a certain type of way and what have you. That's the problem that we have in Portsmouth. We're going to tell the truth and none but the truth, so help us God. And until we get to that point to where we learn, because I'm learning it in this day and time, we're going to be true, authentic leaders, that we can't say everything that comes to our mind, and that we may not always agree with each other, but there's a level of respect that we need to have for each other. Even if I didn't vote for you, the majority of the citizens voted, and if they made you mayor, they made you vice mayor, whomever, they made you senator, we need to learn to respect people in their prospective offices, point blank and dry.
Mark?
Pastor, I was going to say at one time that was something that you were famous for as far as social media and in council chambers and in public. But we all grow and learn and see the error of our ways and think it's probably a better way to handle the situation. And I think that's something you're doing in your growth. But you have to be like you are, like you said, you have to be real and say that there's still people out there doing that, a character assassination,
Exactly.
and just sometimes they are complete lies. And that doesn't help for those children that are watching this. The children that are watching us are very smart, very wise. And unless we start showing them the way to be, or accepting that they are smart and listen to what they're saying, we're gonna always have a issue. So it's you're right. It's the adults that's part of the problem as well. So we need to deal with that. I want to hear what Mark has to say
Yes.
about the situation.
So I try to speak from a position of knowledge, which comes from research. And crime is not my area of expertise. When you get to the recall and council dynamics, ring me up.
Okay, very good, very good. And that was our purpose tonight, was to talk about what's going on politically in our city, and so that we can discuss and see where the citizens are as you look at the behavior of the council, as you look at what's taking place, the decisions that are being made in the city of Portsmouth. And that was our purpose for bringing you on, so you all can share with us what your thoughts are in reference to the various things that's taken place over this past month in the city of Portsmouth. So Mark, that is your area. So did you want to come in now?
Yes, ma'am. I'm happy to speak on that aspect of it. So what we have is a situation which is totally baffling to me. When I had a working life, part of that life was spent supervising 10 people. I hired, fired, reviewed, trained, and counseled the people who worked for me. And in the handbook that our human resources department preached from to supervisors and managers, never did I see that the appropriate treatment for somebody who's doing a great job is to fire them. So apparently the 4 council members who decided to fire an outstanding city manager never had any HR training. And the fact that they didn't bother to acquire those skills before taking on the job of hiring, firing, evaluating, and counseling for public employees attests to their incompetence. And for that reason, I believe they deserve to be removed.
Comment, Barry?
And
Barry?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% with Mr. Mark G, Mr. Mark Geduldig-Yatrofsky. I just think that it's sad what we're facing. I think the way that they did it was wrong. I think that for them to fire her without cause before their supervisors, which is us, the citizens, they fired her without cause. But then when they had various interviews, they began to tell the people that they had interviews with that it was because of crime, it was because of this, it was because of that. And that was very inappropriate, because now they're saying they had a cause. So either you're going to fire her without cause or you fire her with cause. And to me, the word of God tells us a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So therefore, we know the various things that are surrounding this. But let me add this piece to this. When it comes down to recall, and this is what I shared with a citizen, because a citizen asked me on yesterday, she said, what's up with this recall? I'm all for recalling DeAndre, but I don't want to touch it for Mark Whitaker, because I like Mark. And I said, listen, we don't recall people based upon whether we like them or not.
Mhm.
Because I would not be supporting this recall because people dislike DeAndre. I would not dare touch that because it's not about who we like or dislike. We're supposed to go with the will of the people. The people elected both DeAndre and Councilman Mark Whitaker. So therefore, we don't get into the interference of this. A recall is because they are not doing what they're supposed to do by the best interest of the citizens. That is why I am a part of this recall and pushing this. But I can go a bit further with you all, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this. I serve as the vice chair of Parks and Recreation, doing my digging into things on Parks and Recreation because the vice mayor, DeAndre Barnes, he wanted Mark Palmerchuck, the director, fired. Anybody that knows Barry Randall knows that I do not answer to people. I'm only scared of God. Call me crazy, but that's how I've always been. He wanted the director fired. He also wanted Cliff Jones, the supervisor, fired. But I wanted to see for myself were these guys doing what they're supposed to do. Upon my own investigation, I saw what it was, and that was because they was not doing what DeAndre wanted them to do. First of all, there was a conflict of interest because DeAndre Barnes is on the city council. He is not to be involved himself in personnel matters.
That's right.
Secondly, DeAndre Barnes were charging the parents to play for his sports organization, which is his right. I would not have a problem with him using the taxpayer dollars had he not charged the parents. But my issue public was DeAndre Barnes was charging the parents registration fees, but then he also instructed the city manager to pay for the school buildings for the Portsmouth City Cowboys. That's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
Once the violence started upticking in the city of Portsmouth, the superintendent and the school board took precautions because we have janitors working in the schools. They ordered the city and all the organizations that use the schools to provide school security. DeAndre Barnes would not provide security for his games and practices. But guess who he had pay for his games and practices? The city manager.
Yes.
That is also a conflict of interest. And I want every dime back because that's not right. So that again is another conflict of interest. Then looking on the state's website, we discovered that the Portsmouth City Cowboys has not been a nonprofit organization since 2016.
You say has not been a nonprofit?
Since 2016.
Who's the owner?
DeAndre Barnes.
So is it wrapped up in a 501c or one of the tax things?
It has not been a 501c3 since 2016.
But he's promoting it. Is he promoting it as a 501c3?
Yes, that's why the city paid for the buildings, the security, and everything else. And that's why Ollie's and Best Buy and everybody else that's been giving his organization all this money and all this free stuff because he says a 501c3.
Well, you know what? That might be something that the city attorney or some of the state or the Fed need to look into that, because what you're telling me is allegedly he needs to be taken down in shackles and let out.
Well, what I will say is this, because again, what I will say is I was appointed to put on that board for the best interest of those children and the citizens of Portsmouth. And that is wrongdoing. And I have a problem with it. And that is why I will support the recall in reference to Mark Whitaker, because Mark Whitaker is the puppet master. Mark Whitaker is very smart. He is sitting behind the scenes and orchestrating everything that we see. And that is why I will support the recall for him. If we get into the who we're going to support, who we're not going to support, we're going to do one, we're not going to do the other, that is going to split our community down the middle. And that is going to cause problems. We need to stay resilient. We need to live to fight another day. We need to learn to fight against right and wrong. As of right now, we need to be on the side of right. We're losing too many killings. I've been telling you guys this for the last 10, 15 years. Even when I used to be fat, I've been telling y'all this. We are losing too many Black and brown children to gun violence on these streets. And then on the other end, we fighting behind the scenes amongst each other. Something has to give. This is not the time for us to be fighting amongst each other while our children are out here dying in these streets.
Well, Barry, my question is this: how could they hold the city manager responsible for not eliminating crime? She's not a law enforcement officer. How could they hold her responsible for the wave of crime in the city of Portsmouth? And this wave was going on long before she got here. She wasn't here but for a good year. So you expect for her to come in here in less than a year's time, and you want her to correct the ills of the city. It takes time to correct the ills, but she's not law enforcement.
Right, but not only that, we have never had a city manager. There's no city manager in the 7 cities that has helped orchestrate organizations, work with grassroots organizations as she. So this is why it was so important for her to be here. And my thing is this, okay, let's be fair. If you all fired her for the uptick of crime that you all say happened, then they need to be fired for the amount of crime that has happened in the last 2 weeks since she's been gone.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
And they have to be, and I couldn't understand that from the beginning. She has to more or less follow their lead.
Right.
Not be a maverick.
Right.
She has to follow their lead, and they need to put a plan together for the whole community. And they have to bring in stakeholders. They got to have the police department. They got to have the sheriff. They've got to have all kinds of law enforcement to come in here and make a viable plan. And they're not doing that. All they're doing is talking.
Let me tell y'all this, and I'm gonna use the word allegedly, because you know they're gonna be watching this, and I ain't got time to be getting sued, and ain't none of y'all up here with me gonna be able to help me. So let me use the correct terminology.
You're not ready to go to the Portsmouth City Jail, right?
Well, I mean, you'll probably put some money on my books, but I'm just saying, allegedly, the real problem, guys, is because she would not allegedly. She would not let them get their hands on that money. And because, listen to me, in the beginning, there was a meeting that I hosted at my office complex at Bloom, where monies, because of the pandemic, that they was going to help nonprofits, okay? Where they could help nonprofits get money to help with this crime. Well, the problem was when everybody started putting in their bids, you had people putting in for 300,000, 500,000, 600,000, big money. Well, allegedly, no, that's not alleged, because the vice mayor told me himself. But he said, Barry, we want to help a lot of people. So he told the city manager, DeAndre Barnes, told the city manager to cap it at $30,000 to help 100 organizations at $30,000. And that seemed very notable and very helpful. But word on the street was, allegedly, the reason why the vice mayor wanted it at 30,000 was because if he helped you get the $30,000, you had to give him 10%, which was $3,000. Okay. And I think once that got back to the city manager, she started slowing the process up. And she told them they had to wait till July.
Is
And
this,
if you all go back and watch some of the council tapes, what did the vice mayor say? We
yes.
can't wait till July. We
Mhm.
need it now. They need it now. They need it now. And they kept talking about that money. So to me, it sounded like there was some truth to what was being said on the street about that money. Because if you do the math, if he sent her 50 people to get 30,000, and if allegedly 50 people give him a kickback of $3,000, then 3,000 times 50 is what?
Yeah.
$150,000.
And you're talking about the same vice mayor that really has no real job? Are we talking about the same one that I know of?
Right. So that's where that's because I just want to put it in perspective because listen to me, stuff is started. 1 + 1 is always going to equal up to 2. And I've always told my brother, I said, listen, because I know somebody gonna look at y'all show and they're gonna say, well, hold up, ain't Barry the one to help him get elected in the beginning in the first place? And this is what I tell everybody. First of all, my grandmothers raised me. And they always told me, when you're right, Barry, I'm gonna be with you. But when you're wrong, I'm gonna let you know you're wrong.
Yes.
So hopefully people need to recognize, just because you're friends with somebody don't mean you stay friends with them when they're wrong.
Right.
So so y'all can call me flip flop or call me whatever you want to call me. I'm gonna be with you when you're right. And when you're wrong, I have to stop the brakes. And at the end of the day, you're just wrong. Because this man has a master's degree. And I'm trying to figure out, and this is not tooting my horn, somebody lied to me. And I told Costello about a month ago, I make about 170 some thousand dollars a year, and I'm struggling. So how is it that he make $23,000 a year with about 8, 9 kids, allegedly, and doing very well off of 23,000?
Yeah.
And if you make 23, you ain't bringing home 23. You're bringing home about 18 or 19. So how is it that he's making it? So with being the vice mayor of a city, being a young African-American male, working for Bobby Scott, and also having a master's degree and being the vice mayor, jobs will be opening up at his beck and call. 6-figure jobs easily. Why doesn't he want these jobs? That's the question people should be asking themselves.
So let me step in here and ask Pam and let Mark get in there too, since both of them ran for city council at one point. How did you feel about the process that the city council used to fire the city manager, and some of the things that they've been doing because a lot of things, we had a show last week on economic development, and one of my things was that we don't hear a lot about it from our leadership. And that's where it should be coming from, because that's where the policies are made. And so, most the things that are in the public that are going national is this stuff that we're talking about now. As former candidates for council, how do you feel about the process, and what would you do differently if you were there?
Okay, well then I'll start. So no, the process that was used to fire our city manager was completely out of the norm from anything that I've seen in my professional career. You're talking about a person who had done so much more than so many other city managers that I've seen in a very short period. And there were things that she did privately that, there are people that know about that others don't, just to try to bring the community together, to show that she had empathy, to try to sort through these problems. I don't believe that the uptick in crime was the real reason why. just because it doesn't make logical sense to me. The crime's been going up for multiple years. Again, she is not a law enforcement officer. Yes, the police chief does answer to her, but to help get the resources that are needed for this systemic problem that we are having with gun violence, you have to have a united city council working with the police department, working with the sheriff's office, working with a multitude of other organizations, community stakeholders, to try to get additional funding and to try to get additional resources on the street so that the people that are behind the scenes that are causing this are the ones that are taken off the streets and prosecuted. So yeah, it was not anything I was accustomed to. It was also not what I was accustomed to whenever we've had two people names thrown out as far as being appointed city manager that have lacking qualifications. So, and that's not a dig on, especially not on the former police chief, who I personally very much liked, but there is a skill set and a working knowledge that you have to have of how this style of large, governmental organization works, funds, has, rules on how money is dispersed, how projects are done. There's so much more to how city operates these people realize unless they've been intimately involved in it. And then on top of that, you throw in the fact that any city of our size is also self-insured. So anything that happens, to the negative, whenever we have these large settlements that happen, that comes out of our city coffers. That comes out of taxpayer dollars. There is no, oh, well, we'll just file an insurance claim. That's not a thing.
Mark? Mark? You're mute. You're mute.
I know. I know how this works. I just can't get my fingers to work. So the city manager is the CEO of the city, as she is to the city of Portsmouth, as President Biden is to the country of the United States. What's different is we, the people, hire and fire the president. The Congress could, the House could impeach him and the Senate could try him, but it's a high bar. You must have a 2/3 vote of the Senate to actually oust a president. With the city manager, 4 votes determines his or her fate. And so the personal agendas of the people on council really play into this in a way that you don't see at any other level of government. You have to organize a handful of people to get rid of a city manager or to hire a city manager. The other difference between a city manager and a president is president can be some person who's never held a political office in his or her life before this one, can claim to be a business tycoon or a captain of industry, or, the most brilliant person on the planet, and there are no requirements. City manager must have a master's degree and must have expertise in city planning or in management generally. So we have more stringent requirements for a manager than for the President of the United States. We also ask for experience in the job. And Lord help the first time city manager walking into Portsmouth, Virginia to run this city. You really need to have some experience under your belt, because our problems are not unique, but they are multitudinous. And the city manager before Ms. Jones, whom I really admired and respected, and who also got run out of town by lesser people, I might add, one of whom was talking about running for re-election now because of the embarrassment. Well, he has embarrassed me quite a bit over the last 24 years, and he helped to hand out that very capable city manager. But one of the things that he said to me once upon a time is, being city manager in Portsmouth is like drinking water from a fire hose.
Mm,
Something is always coming at you
mhm.
full force. And I don't think he was telling a tall tale at all.
Mark, let me ask you this question, and let me just get this in, because you're one of the people that speak before the council a lot on issues that they are voting on. And a lot of people crowd up the end of the meeting, and which is nothing wrong with that, for the non-agenda speakers so they can vent and say a lot of things, which gets no reaction. How important is it for people other than you, citizens other than you, to speak on those issues that they're actually voting on? And this is going to be important going forward after the November election, whatever happens with the recall, when we have a new makeup of council, or whatever happens, that people realize how important it is to speak up during those times and let your voices be heard, because that's the policy making times. And that's what that's the important things, and that's what we don't see on the news. We see the drama, and we don't see, and people end up something happening in your neighborhood, and you just say, when did that happen? It happened that last Tuesday night while you were waiting to speak at the end of the meeting. So since you do it a lot, you and Don, how important it is, tell the other citizens how important it is for people to get in line with you at that point of the council meeting and speak up and make your voices heard.
It's not only important to speak up, it's important to know what you're talking about. And I draw that distinction between myself and the person you mentioned previously. In fact, Mr. Overton, you have one of my favorite three-way formulations. Be aware, be informed, and be involved. So it's good to know that something is happening, but it is essential that you inform yourself, and every item that comes before City Council has documentation attached to it. But that's not the be-all and end-all, because the documentation that's attached is documentation that favors whatever the proposal is. And there may be another side to that story. There may be multiple other sides to that story. So you need to have reliable news sources. you need to stay in touch with your neighbors who have been around for a while, people like you, Mr. Overton, who have followed city issues for decades and who yourself have been involved with them, and your compatriots, the Colonel and Ms. Leah. You've all lived this and you've seen the history of this city. To talk without any background in what's going on is to be just another voice. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
We get lots of wind in Portsmouth.
Yes.
Some of it nature brings, but the other parts of it are being created by people who are just blowing wind.
Yes.
Mark, you said a mouthful, because one, we're living in a time frame now, and it sort of was highlighted in the last presidential administration, and I don't even mention his name, that untruths and being the loudest got in, and not even being close to being truth was accepted, and that's the way things are. And it is emanated in our city council now. And I look at, I've always been one on our vice mayor. I like him as a person, but I don't think he has a bandwidth to be there. And I've said that over and over again. And you can, he might be watching tonight and he'll have to use his Google machine to see what I mean by bandwidth. So that's my statement there. And Barry, you used a statement that on flip-flopping, and you supported the vice mayor. I see it as you making a course correction. You supporting him, then you see what you got, and we make a course correction, because we don't stick with the same loser horse throughout the whole Preakness or thing. And so, yeah, so I don't like to flip flop. You just make course correction, Barry.
Absolutely. And I told people, I said, don't feel bad, about, because someone was saying, well, we supported Mark. I said, you don't owe no one no explanation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have to go, because let me tell y'all this. Councilman Whitaker is a very smart guy. He's an alpha male and he's a leader. And he knows that this is a prime opportunity for him, because that is not the only one up there without bandwidth. It's many up there without bandwidth.
Yes.
And he knows he can direct them. The council is getting ready to change. And once we change that council, he won't be able to direct people, because there are going to be some strong individuals with their own mindset, with morals, with integrity, with values. So they're not going to be able to be told what to do. And there are going to be some people that go to work and will rather get a paycheck than try to figure out what developer they can shake down, how they can get paid through the city and what have you. Because at the end of the day, listen, people, this is the city that we love. What are we going to leave for our children? If we try to shake Portsmouth down for every dime that she get, then 30, 40 years from now, yeah, many of us going to be dead and gone, but what are we going to leave for these children? Let's be honest. What are we going to leave for these children? Yeah, we getting it. Me too. I'm 40-something years old. So, I'll be 70, 80 going on out the door right with some of you all. But at the end of the day, what are we going to leave for our children if we keep trying to take Portsmouth for everything that she has? So therefore, it's not right. Look at our building. That's why I have a problem that everybody is trying to use Parks and Recreation for everything that they can get. We have Parks and Recreation. We have our buildings. You go to Chesapeake, they don't even need the YMCA. You go to Virginia Beach, they don't need the YMCA, because they rival the YMCA with the things that they have. And then you look at our buildings, and our stuff is dilapidated, they're outdated, they're dark, they're dim. Come on, people. It's not right. And then we have all these people that's trying to get into these sports organizations so they can get paid. And then I look at all these young black boys that's starting these programs. And then when you look at the registration fee, $299. $289. And then I go out to Chesapeake and Bennett's Creek, and they got the same type of program, and the registration fee $39 and $49, because you can't call yourself a nonprofit, but then you're trying to make a profit.
Mhm.
It's something not right with this picture that we're
That-
pimping and prostituting these children.
Yes.
And I'd like
Pat?
to point out, yes, I'd like to point out, as my husband and I have retired from Westmoreland Children and Youth, and for years, the kids never had to pay a dime. We solicited, got donations, got grants. We were a 501c3. We lived up to our obligations, and the kids did not have to pay. And even we made sure they had uniforms. People were supporting teams. So it can be done,
Mhm.
but we have to step out of the box. When is this council going to reflect the values of Portsmouth?
Mhm.
We have a lot of issues that need to be taken care of between education. We need to look at the historical value of Portsmouth. We need to look at the challenges of the infrastructure, the water, the
Mhm.
sewer, all these things that we need to do now, and even with the violence. When are they going to get all together and say, let's make some policies for our citizens, not for themselves? This is too much about their personal agenda.
Mhm.
Now, you got to remember early on, when this new council came aboard, they were already trying to sabotage our mayor and the power.
Mhm.
They were bringing it, they wanted to have a city attorney that was not qualified, a city manager. They just wanted to bring some of their buddies in with all these, with the position. And they had already started then. Now we let them get away with it then, but we have to make sure that the process is respected. We all have a process. You have a process of raising your children, paying your bills. Portsmouth needs to stick with our process of hiring and firing. We have to stop using people as pawns for our own personal agenda. We got to get back to policy making.
Yeah, and y'all notice who?
And you know, and friendship plays no part. I mean, you love your friends, but you have to find people who are capable of running the city. That's more important than friendship. And you tell your friend, you say, listen, I love you, but we need people in positions who can make sound decisions.
Well, first of all, your friends shouldn't be twerking at night and think they're gonna run the city during the day. Yes, I said it. I don't care who don't like it. You shouldn't be wanting, you should not have a desire to want to twerk at night and think you're gonna get up and run the city during the day. At some point, integrity matters. At some point, you should not want to do it. At some point. And let me tell y'all something else that we need to look at. Isn't it strange? And I don't care. I'm just so over everything at this point. Why haven't we heard from the NAACP? I'm not saying to take a side. Why haven't we heard from the NAACP about what was done, the injustice that was done to the city manager? Why haven't we heard from the NAACP with the amount of violence that has happened? But if a white person kills one person,
that's right. You're right.
They
on
will
that one.
be marching
You're
down
right.
the street.
Right.
We sent to the city manager, listen, Thursday, we had 5 people shot in one night, and one was a child, 2 were females, and the other 2 were males. And then fast forward to what? Yesterday or the day before yesterday, we had 3 killed. And the night before that, 1 killed, and then another one shot that morning. You haven't heard a peep from the NAACP. But then you get these guys, Black Lives Matter and NAACP, they get mad with me. Oh, Degger Bird is trying to start stuff again. No, I got a problem with that. But Black Lives Matter, but you don't hear them saying nothing.
But Barry, not only that, what bothers me is with all these shootings, and then we get a council member to come on TV and make a statement that they're more concerned about putting policy and people in place than the concerns about the children. You're speaking to the media, you're not putting any plan forth. What have you put forth? Every time someone dies, you're jumping before the camera. Stay away from the camera
That's
and
right.
come up with some plans and some policies that's going to help these children and help these communities. Stay away
Well,
from
I
the
got a better
camera.
one. I got a better one for you. These are the same individuals that we go back to last year, the same individuals that was saying do something. Because remember, and I think Mark Geduldig-Yatrofsky, I want to respect him, Pam Phillips, because remember, everybody was mad with me. Oh, Barry don't like the mayor. No, Barry did not like the mayor. I didn't like that Mayor Glover wasn't saying nothing. But when Mayor Glover started speaking up, I stepped up with him because
That's
it ain't
right.
personal for me. So once Mayor Glover did that press conference at City Hall, I called Dr. Marie Shepherd because I was at work, and I said, Doc, can I please have permission to go stand with my mayor and support him in this press conference? Guess who didn't show up? DeAndre Barnes, Paul Battle, Christopher Woodard, and Mark Whitaker. Shame on them, because it
Yeah.
ain't about who you don't like. I didn't care if Mayor Shannon Glover and none of his supporters had 2 words to say to me, because Barry Randall didn't show up for them. I showed up for the citizens of Portsmouth, because I'm here for the citizens of Portsmouth. I know how to walk in a room of everybody that can't stand my guts, because I'm not there for the people out right there. I'm there for the citizens of Portsmouth. And that's the problem. They was talking about what Shannon won't doing. Then once Shannon's tried to do something, they wouldn't even stand with the man. Then when Shannon did another press conference, they gonna say, oh, he don't have the authority to call a press conference. So what? The man trying to do something, so you get up there and you stand with him. And that's
And
why the
then,
word of God tells us a body that's unified is not going to stand.
Exactly.
that's right. And they have made it so divisive. And one of the things I do remember is that to leverage their power, they didn't allow our mayor to be on any boards or commissions. Now, you know that's an insult to our city.
That's because they want to control everything. That's what
They
I'm trying to
do.
tell you.
And
Everything
they're
was
not showing
strategic.
up. They're not,
Everything was
all of them are not
strategically
showing
done.
up on those boards and commissions.
Yeah,
They are
everything
not
was
even being
yeah,
held accountable.
everything was strategically done
It
so that
was
they can
strategic.
control
That's
certain
right.
aspects
Right.
of the city.
And we should have not let them get away with that. But see, they got so far.
Yep.
Now we have to do something drastic because our city can't afford to lose our tax base.
Yeah.
People are moving out, y'all.
They are.
And
Crime
that's
is
what,
going up
yeah.
like
And
crazy in
those are
Portsmouth.
people that are property owners.
Yes.
And you keep talking, and people are talking about, well, I don't want my taxes to go up. Make sure you have a safe city and a unified political parties and political people that want the best for Portsmouth. We're gonna lose out on tax base.
Yeah. And you gotta get, and you gotta get, and you
my
have to get
taxes
those
are going up.
signatures. You can't listen. Y'all can't just go out there and think you're gonna sign a recall. We need 10,000. I
We
gave
do.
out. I had people.
We
Listen,
do.
Mark. I had people call me, Barry, can I get a sheet? No, you can't get a sheet. I'm good for one sheet. No, you're not. I need you to take 5. There are 20 signatures. 5. That's 100. Because I need you to be responsible for 100 signatures. You can do it. There's over 200 houses in your community. Yes, you can. Because in order for this to work, because the level of sheer arrogance with Mark Whitaker and DeAndre Barnes, them 2 dynamic people right there, they don't even think that this is going to even happen.
No, they
Trust
don't.
and believe. They don't even think it's going to happen because the level of arrogance that they have. So we can't play around with this and let people take a sheet or 2. We'll be doing this for 2-3 years.
Mark?
Let me ask
Mark?
this. Let me ask this. Go ahead, Mark. You go first.
Wait, Mark.
I have a question afterwards. Please let me ask afterwards.
Yeah, so it's nice the council members Barnes and Whitaker are getting so much attention, but remember, there were 4 votes to fire the city manager. And I disagree with those who say that Mark Whitaker, Councilmember Whitaker, is the linchpin to this, because we have a second mayor on city council. And he's kind of like the president who wasn't going to turn over the reins of power. He spent a great deal of his own money to win the mayoral seat and then didn't get it. So he has his own permanent block. He put thousands of dollars into Councilmember Barnes' political campaign,
Buying him off, buying his seat.
buying his support,
Yep.
and Councilmember Barnes brought one of his acolytes on board to fill the vacancy created when then Councilmember Glover moved into the mayor's spot. So we have 4 people to deal with, and 2 of them, Councilmember Battle and Councilmember Woodard, we can deal with in November, but people need to have that in mind. It's not just about the other 2.
Yeah,
And the other thing is, remember, it is the battle block. When he wants those 2 votes on his side, he makes them an offer they cannot refuse. He is the godfather here, but he doesn't get enough credit.
Listen. Let me shed some light on that, Mark. I hate to inflate your balloon, brother, but DeAndre Barnes and Paul Battle do not like each other. Do not even get along. Paul Battle knows that DeAndre Barnes took his money, and let me go ahead and share some more truth to you all. There were some other people that were supposed to run in this election, but because the 420 festival did not go as planned and was not as successful as they had wanted it to be, those people backed out of the race. Okay, so Paul Battle knows that. Paul Battle just hates Shannon Glover so much. That's why if you talk to Paul Battle behind the scene, you will hear Paul Battle call DeAndre Barnes crooked, DeAndre Barnes this, DeAndre Barnes that. They're not a block at all. That's why they could not hire a city manager. That's why they could not hire a city attorney. That's why last week they couldn't even come together and put Tanya Chapman together. Because first of all, they can't keep a.
Why do you think
Hold up, they can't even keep a secret. That's why I told you guys before the public even knew who they was going to put, because I knew on Saturday, but I wasn't allowed to tell you guys until Monday night that they was going to bring her. And trust and believe, Mark Whitaker takes his marching orders from none of them. That's why when Danny Meeks was going to be the city manager, the only 3 that was in agreement was the 3 of them. And then they tried to bring what's his name, Bill Moody, on board, because Bill Moody was the one that flipped the first time. And if you notice, Mark Whitaker would not even agree to it because he doesn't listen to none of them. But I do agree with what your supremacy is. But don't worry, Paul Battle and Chris Woodard won't even be dealt with. If you go back and look at the numbers, people lie, math doesn't lie, numbers don't lie. Ed Brown beat Chris Woodard in every black precinct except for one.
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Chris Woodard beat Ed Brown in the white precinct. The white community did not have an option because they did not want to vote for the King Committee. Now that you have Mark Hugel, Nathan Clark, and Bill Moody running, they have options. And Chris Woodard will not be one of them. Chris Woodard will make history this year because he will be the only person in the state of Virginia that would have been elected for the shortest amount of time, which will be 1 year. So we do need to put all our resources behind this recall because Paul Battle and Chris Woodard will be unseated in November.
Yes.
Let me ask this, since we are sort of winding down for our hour. And, one of the things in a perfect world or in a perfect city, we like to see unity. And no city is perfect. Portsmouth, is no exception there. But, it seems like this recall is bringing some people together that wouldn't normally come together. And I ask this of all our guests. Do you think this unity can continue past this recall effort? Was the recall the only string that's bringing some people together that we need to have together in order to, I'm not saying people are going to not vote their own way or vote the way they want to, but at some point we have to have some kind of unity as far as, what we want to see for the city of Portsmouth. And I like to see the unity of whatever's going on now to go beyond this recall and have us come together for common sense issues, So how do you all feel coming from different areas of the city of Portsmouth? You think we'll come out of this recall or come out of November still unified in certain things that are important to the city's success?
So let me jump on that, if I may. I'm not a person who has a lot of faith in a lot of things, but one article of faith for me is that in this world, there are more people of goodwill than of ill will.
Yes.
And that transcends pigmentation. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of people who are weak in that they allow themselves to be bullied by those who have bigger mouths, louder voices, and aggressive behaviors. My hope is that what we will see is people of goodwill recognizing each other as such and not wanting to let go of the feelings that come from working with neighbors for the common good. Hope is not a plan, but hope springs eternal, and that's my hope.
Pat?
And that's kind of where I am too. I think that with the civic leagues are working very hard on this recall. And if we continue that momentum and people can see how we can work better together than apart to make Portsmouth succeed, I feel like it's going to continue, but we can't let it go. We just can't drop it. We have to be very intentional at city council meetings. If you can't go, send somebody else or have people go at different times. But I think if we continue this kind of momentum, we can be successful, but we got to be intentional.
Barry?
I think the problem is we condemn what we don't understand. If we don't hang around each other or deal with each other, then we kind of shy away from each other. Many of the people, and that's what it is, many of the people that I've had some of the hardest battle with, I have some of the greatest time. Elizabeth Simmons and I, we do dinner once a week with each other. And look at how I was leading a recall against her. We was at each other's throat, and now we're the best of friends. We're going on a cruise together this upcoming October. It just takes us getting to know each other. I am hopeful that after this recall that we will continue to work with each other, because look at how many Black people, look at how many people in the Black community was asking Bill Moody to please run. Please, Bill Moody, please run. I mean, Bill was on his way out the door. And the Black people were calling me saying, Barry, can you please ask Bill Moody to run one more time? The same Bill Moody that called us thugs, the same Bill Moody that people wanted to recall. And after we found out that he was immune from recall because he had just won the election. So at the end of the day, I think that if we take the time to develop relationships, work with each other beyond just seeing each other once a week or a sound bite in the newspaper or on the news, we will find out that we have more in common than we do apart. We're better together. You understand what I'm saying? We are much better together.
Is our commonality. This is it.
This is. Pam?
I mean, I totally agree that we are, as a community, way better together than we are divided. I'm still a little cynical. Humans in nature.
Pam, speak up. I can't hear you. Come closer to the mic.
So I'm a little cynical that this is going to continue. I hope it does. I really, truly hope that it does. But too often, little things will happen that divides this community very rapidly. And I hope as this year goes on and people are able to build bonds with each other that they didn't have before, that does continue and that we stay as a community.
But you know, I must say, as we prepare to close, I was really amazed at City Council meeting how people were really coming together. People have seen who usually didn't say anything to me. They would come up to me and they were talking and they were, you know, sharing their thoughts and on what was happening in Portsmouth. And, you know, and with my job, you know, I'm all over the city all the time. And I'm running into people all over the city of Portsmouth who now want to stop and they want to talk and they want to talk about solutions to the problems. This is something I had not experienced before. So I am hoping that with this recall, pulling people together, I'm hoping that once this recall is over, that we can continue to work together. That's the only way that Portsmouth is going to move forth, is if we come together as a body. We're not going to always agree. You know, as Reverend Warren says, when we have alumni meetings, he say, we don't have to agree, but let's not become disagreeable. There's a way to disagree with someone without calling names and posting stuff on Facebook and you know, and all that other crazy stuff, you know. But you know, you talk to a person and tell a person what you disagree with them, and maybe you can come to some common ground, and you find out that you really don't disagree as much as you think you disagree. So I'm hoping and I'm praying, Barry, that this recall, these people coming together, working together in the city of Portsmouth will decide that it's time for us to unite. If we want this city to get better, if we want this city to grow, we have to work together.
And let me tell you something, and I hope Pam is okay with me sharing this. Pam Phillips is also a good friend of mine. I love her very dearly. Pam,
am I your friend, Barry?
Am I your good friend of mine? Okay. Yes, you are, Leah. I love you dearly. But Pam, let me tell you something very funny, real guys. And that's why it's important for us to develop relationships with people. People know that I am a believer. Pam is a non-believer. And one day, Pam Phillips came to my house to see me because I was sick. And we talked, and I don't know, she brought me something, some soup or something. And before she left, now mind you, she's an atheist. Guess what Pam said to me? She said, I'll pray for you. And I looked at her and I said, well, how you gonna do that?
Send positive energy your way.
But my point is just rubbing off on each other. And relationship. And any time that I did anything in the community, she was there. Anything I needed help for in the community, she was there. And I know people that claim to love Jesus, follower of Jesus, and I could never count on them, but I could count on her. So my point is, stop judging people from a distance. Get to know people, because you find out that you have more in common than you do that's not in common. So I just wanted to share that point, because that's the problem. We don't take the time to get to know each other, and because we want to judge people that we don't know, so therefore we don't even want to deal with them because we was raised differently. And then you find out that people know she's an engineer. She helped do plans for my store. When I opened the store, she did the plans that I needed for the city and what have you. So I'm just saying, people, everything we need is right here in the city of Portsmouth. Is your neighbor. They don't look like you. They don't talk like you. They don't act like you. They don't eat the same foods you eat. But guess what? They are the other you. There's a word in the word brother. It's called other. That's your other you. And when we learn to love each other, the word of God said love covers a multitude of sin. We learn to love one another, then we can do that. DeAndre, I love you. I just don't love what you're doing. I
Yeah.
don't love who you became. I don't love who you're becoming. I don't love who you're, the example that you're setting for our children. Paul Battle, I love everything you've done for my family, but I don't love who you're becoming. I don't love the example that you're setting, because behind closed doors, you're telling me what these guys are doing, but then I see you voting with them. Mark Whitaker, you're a preacher of the gospel. I don't love what you're doing, but I love you. Chris Whitaker, you're cute, brother. You're handsome, but I don't love what you're doing. Okay, that's it. I'm out.
All that love, you know,
Chairman,
and
Yes,
that's the greatest commandment, Barry. It's to
yes,
love the
that's
Lord thy
love.
God and love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the greatest commandment. So I love all the
I have,
love that you shared on today. Pat?
yes. I got two more things that I wanted to add. Where are our ministers? You know, our churches
Yes,
used to be the
yes.
foundation of information and leadership. I am very disappointed that these ministers have not gotten together, the blacks, the whites, you know, the Jewish, the rabbis in Portsmouth. Where are they? Are they not speaking truth
Mhm.
and looking at what's going on, not only with the violence, but our dysfunction in our leadership? So that's one thing, that's one issue I have. And the other one, I want to let you all know that Sharon Anderson, a native of Portsmouth, she's running for a city council seat, and I'm on her campaign committee. She's confident, she's transparent, she's trustworthy, she can unify, and she can coalesce with the greatest and the least. She is working on a bachelor's degree in um, science in criminal justice from Strayer. And she's had businesses and she's worked with the community many, many years. And she's in Ebony Heights, has been the Civic League president there for a number of years. So she's active in the community, and you will see her come out and speak the truth and unify Portsmouth, because that's where we need to be. And she loves to have relationships with people. She's good at developing good contacts. So that is my friend. And I'd like for you to look at her as being, we do need another woman. You know that, right?
Very
On the
much,
city
very
council.
much.
Yes.
Pat, I must say one thing. Your pastor did speak up at the city council meeting.
Yes, he did.
And the truth that he left with me was, you don't send boys to do a man's job.
Go ahead with it.
And with my truth is, it's time for the women to come in and take over and turn this
That's right.
place right. Because the men
That's
have
right.
just made a mess of it, a
Mess.
complete mess of it. Sorry, guys, but it's the truth.
That's all
It's
right.
the truth.
So
Hey.
look at Sharon, look at Sharon D. Anderson.
Leah, you said that last week. We're gonna have to look forward to
I
that
look at
every
that
week.
every time. And every time I see Reverend Turner, I say, you don't send a boy to do a man's job.
Amen.
And you don't,
Amen.
and you don't send men to do a job that a woman can turn right side up again. Okay.
Okay, Colonel, any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, my thought, I was just thinking about what I was going to say tonight, and I'm a big watcher of Netflix, and I am watching a show now in starring and it's taking place in the city of Portsmouth,
Hello.
starring our city council, filled with dysfunction and graft and corruption.
Wow.
Yes. And it is up to, and it boils down to, yes, we can have a recall, but it's still going to be up to the citizens of Portsmouth to pull that lever, you know, in a metaphor, pull that lever or blacken that little circle to put some of these jokers out. And so you can have true representation for somebody to represent you, and rather than representing themselves. So it's still up to the citizens of Portsmouth, and that is the piece. So they need to be in tune to see who they want to represent themselves. And so, and getting back to Miss Pat, so if you got Miss Anderson, she needs to come up here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk and
That's
talk
right.
to us.
We're gonna have
Mr.
the
Colonel,
women
y'all
on.
need to bring all the women. You got
All of the women
Onyx,
on.
you got
All of them.
Onyx, you got Angelia, you got Donna Sy, and you got Miss Anderson. You need to bring all four.
If
Yeah.
they're listening,
The 4 women.
We're gonna do that.
invitations out there. All they do is pick it up.
All right.
And
We'll
James,
see what happens.
James, can I say one thing before we leave? Can I say one
Well,
thing?
no, hold on. Let me finish my thought
You're gonna
first.
make me forget it.
The dog show is next week.
Who?
I saw you had your. the
She,
dog
you know,
show is
whenever she
next
hears
week.
your voice, James, she comes in and she wants to be a part of the show. Okay. But one thing I want to
just
say
wanted to
is
say-
this. You
Go ahead, go ahead.
remember when Paul made the statement about something John Hatchett told him?
Oh, my God.
Do you
Oh,
remember
Lord.
that?
Y'all read the letter. Did y'all
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
the letter from John Hatchett
The
family?
kids,
On the
remember the
family,
kids,
yeah.
I read they read the letter from the family, but one of the young people who I work with said, Miss Stith, you have to go to the wire. What he said is exactly what was said on the wire. And they sent me the link from the wire.
Wow.
You show the wire.
I'll send you the link. The kids sent it to me because I didn't watch the wire. I don't know what happened on the wire. So
Well,
but the
send
kids
send it to me.
I'll send it
Yeah,
to you. The
send it
kids
to me
said-
too.
when
I
the
watched
kids
it.
when
I
the kids
talked
saw
about
that,
it.
because they knew I was a good friend of John Hatcher's, they knew that Mr. Hatcher was my good friend. And many of my
Mhm.
kids, we had our meetings, our Sankofa meetings at John Hatcher's place when John Hatcher was alive and running the Wesley Center. And when they saw
Mhm.
that, they immediately sent to me, they said, Miss Stith, what he just said would not be something that Mr. Hatcher would have said. I said, that's true. They say,
Yes.
but listen, this is where he got this from. And they sent me the link. I'll send you the link to the
Oh,
wire.
yeah,
Send
could
me
you
send it to me
I
tonight.
will. I'll send it to each of you.
Yes.
Yes.
And I like to close out by saying thank you to all the guests that are here today, and especially you, Barry, for I called you, I got in touch
Yes.
with you last night
Yes,
and you
Barry.
agreed to
That's
come
good.
on. You didn't take it like, well, you're calling me now? Well, you might have said that, but anyway, you agreed to come on. And,
I just wanted to clarify. I said tomorrow at 7. I just wanted to clarify. And listen, I want to invite the coffee talk to come. You guys come and record. I have the Attorney General coming next month to New First Baptist Church, Taylorsville, for a Portsmouth Town Hall on crime. And it will be
Yeah, I saw
Attorney
that.
General Jason Miyares and Delegate Don Scott and Sheriff Michael Moore and Chief Prince.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll do that live.
What day is it on, Barry? What day is it?
Thursday, July the 7th.
Oh, well, we have to do coffee talk from there then, James.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
be our show.
Yeah.
That would be our show for that Thursday.
Uh-huh.
So everybody, thanks again. We really appreciate it. And I like the idea about having the 4 women up here that are candidates or any other ones that step in. That'll be interesting to have all of them up there to talk
Yeah.
about their perspective. But we plan on having all the candidates, everybody. Either they're gonna be hit the ball out the park or be exposed, one of the two. So, but we want to give everybody an opportunity, and hopefully they'll get more than a sound bite here on Coffee Talk to talk about their platform and explain what they would do different. And then the rest of the job is up to us as citizens to vet them properly and make
Yes.
sure that you look into them and don't just go by what they say when they're running. Look into it, and make sure you make the right choice. Again, thank you, everybody. And Portsmouth Coffee Talk
Thank
is
you
here for our
all.
voice.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Our community,
And
Do we get a coffee mug for being up here?
if you like
Yeah.
one, I would give you one.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Pat,
Okay,
already,
bye-bye.
Pat was the first to receive the Portsmouth Coffee Talk mug.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, I
But
need
thanks
one.
again.
Thank
A
you.
very, very good conversation, informative, intriguing, and truthful and transparent. That's all we need. That's all we want, on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And we want to give the citizens an opportunity to talk when the council doesn't.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
good. I like that.
All right. So
Good
next
idea,
week
James.
we'll have some more citizens.
Thank you all. Thank you all so very much.
you.
Thank you. And it will be on
Thank you.
YouTube. Tell your friends to go on YouTube, subscribe,
We
and
will.
like our YouTube page, and it's out there forever. Okay. You can't take anything
Okay.
back. It's out there now.
Yeah, it'll probably be on there later tonight,
Yeah,
whenever
soon
Leah
as-
sends.
Yeah, soon as it transfers over, I'll send it to you, okay?
All right.
Okay,
All right.
everyone have a great evening. Let me stop this.
Take care, Colonel. I like that hat.
Yeah.
Big star.